There's a technique that was used by Soviet spies during the Cold War to extract classified information from American sailors. And the crazy part? The sailors had no idea they were being interrogated. Their brains never even registered that they were giving away secrets. This technique is called elicitation. And before you think this is some obscure spy craft that has no relevance to your life, let me tell you something. You're being elicited right now, every single day. By salespeople, by your coworkers, maybe even by your friends, and you don't even notice it's happening. So what exactly is elicitation? The technique was originally developed by a man named John Nolan. He wrote a book about it called Confidential. But good luck finding a copy. It's not for sale anymore. He pulled it off the shelf. You'd have to hunt it down on eBay if you really wanted it. And maybe there's a reason it's so hard to find. Here's the core principle. Elicitation is about using statements instead of questions. That's it. Sounds simple, right? But the implications are profound. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you walk into a Whole Foods. There's a young woman stocking produce. Someone gives you a challenge. You have 60 seconds to find out how much money she makes. But here's the catch. You can't ask any questions, and you can't be awkward about it. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But here's how you do it. You walk up to her and ask where the baby carrots are. She starts walking you over to them. And while you're walking, you casually say, "Hey, I just read this article online that said all Whole Foods employees just got bumped up to $26 an hour. That's fantastic." And she turns around and says, "What? No, I make 17. See what just happened? She didn't feel pressed. She didn't feel interrogated. She felt like she was correcting misinformation. And in that moment of correction, she volunteered information she would never have given if you just asked, "So, how much do you make?" Her brain never set off those little security alarms that go off when someone asks us a direct question about sensitive information. Let's try another scenario. You get into an Uber. The driver seems tired, maybe a little frustrated. You say, "I just read this article that Uber drivers were ranked as some of the most highly satisfied employees in the country." And the driver laughs. "What? Where did you read that?" And then he proceeds to tell you everything that's wrong with driving for Uber. The bad pay, the difficult passengers, the wear and tear on his car. You've just gotten him to open up completely, and you never asked a single question. This is the power of triggering someone's need to correct the record. It's one of the easiest forms of elicitation, but it's not the only one. Another approach is making open-ended statements that invite elaboration. Statements like, "I bet you had some interesting experiences doing that," or, "I can imagine that was challenging." These aren't questions. They're observations. And because they're observations, people feel like they're volunteering information rather than being interrogated. There's a psychological difference there that's crucial. Then there's a third layer, disbelief. Let's say you want to find out if someone just got back from vacation. You don't ask, "Did you go on vacation?" Instead, you say, "You look like you just got back from a vacation." That's a statement. And they might say, "No, actually, I've been doing this and this and this." Now, you've gotten more information than you would have with a simple yes or no question. So you follow up. "Wow, that had to be interesting. I can't imagine that. There's got to be a lot going on there." And they keep talking. More and more details spill out. Then you say, "That sounds great. I love when everything is 100% flawless, with no challenges whatsoever." And that's when they say, "Well, actually," and then they tell you about all the problems, all the difficulties, everything that went wrong. You've just used disbelief to extract even deeper information, and you still haven't asked a single question. Now let me tell you the story that makes this technique truly chilling. During the early days of the Cold War, Soviet spies used this exact method to extract classified information from young American sailors. A submarine would pull into port in Thailand or Singapore. These sailors, 19 years old, would head to the bars to drink and unwind. A Russian operative would show up, aloha shirt, casual demeanor. He'd sit down near the sailors and strike up a friendly conversation. And then he'd say something like, "I know that German submarines could outrun American ones because their propellers are 22 feet in diameter, and all of your submarine propellers are only 18 feet. And the sailor, slightly drunk and feeling patriotic, would turn around and say, "No, they're not." And then he'd proceed to give up classified specifications just to correct the record. The spy never asked a single direct question. He just provided incorrect information and let human psychology do the rest. The need to correct false information is so strong that it overrides our sense of caution, especially when we've been drinking. This technique isn't just used by spies, it's used in corporate espionage too. Let's say a company is planning to relocate. A competitor wants to know when, so they send someone to a bar where employees from that company hang out. The operative strikes up a conversation and says, "Yeah, I heard you guys are moving between March and April." The employee corrects them. "No, it's actually February. But we're not really supposed to talk about it." Now the operative has the real timeline. So they push further with disbelief. "There's no way you're moving in February. It's too cold. Interest rates are too high. There's no possible way the CEO would approve that." And the employee, feeling defensive, gives even more information. "Yeah, well, actually." And off they go, revealing details about the move, the reasoning, maybe even internal company debates. So let's break down the three main techniques within elicitation. First, correcting the record. You provide false or slightly inaccurate information, and the other person feels compelled to correct you. This is the most powerful technique because the psychological drive to correct misinformation is incredibly strong. Second, bracketing. You give a range instead of a specific number. Are you moving between March and May? Or do you make between $39,000 and $59,000? The person will often narrow it down for you or give you the exact number. Third, disbelief. You express skepticism about what they've told you, which prompts them to defend their position and provide even more detail to prove they're telling the truth. Now, how do you actually start using this in conversations? The key words are "so" and "I bet." So, you've been doing this for 3 years? That's not really a question, even though it might sound like one. It's a statement that invites confirmation and elaboration. So, this isn't the best job, but it's getting things done for you? Again, you're making an observation, not asking a question. "I bet that was interesting. I bet there were still some challenges there. I bet you overcame a whole lot to get to this point." These statements feel like empathy, like understanding, like casual conversation, but what they're really doing is creating space for the other person to volunteer information. Let's say someone's drinking coffee and you want to know how they take it. You could ask, "How do you prefer your coffee?" But that's a direct question. Instead, you say, "I bet you hate that coffee." Now, whether they love it or hate it, they're going to respond. If they hate it, they'll say yes and probably explain why. If they love it, they'll correct you and explain why it's actually good. Either way, you get information. Then you can follow up. I could imagine you're the kind of person who likes coffee a very specific way, and they'll tell you exactly how they like it. Then, you recap without asking anything. That's extremely interesting. No creamer, no sugar. You're just repeating back what they said, which encourages them to keep talking. Now, you might be thinking, why not just ask, "How do you prefer your coffee?" And that's a fair question. If you're just talking about coffee, asking directly is fine. Coffee preferences aren't sensitive information. But here's the rule of thumb that makes all the difference. The more sensitive the information you need, the fewer questions you should be asking. Questions trigger defensiveness. They make people's guards go up. They activate the part of our brain that evaluates whether we should or shouldn't share information. But statements? Statements slip right past those defenses. Our brains don't register them as attempts to extract information. We just hear them as conversation, as connection, as someone trying to understand us. And that's what makes elicitation so powerful and, honestly, a little disturbing. Think about how often this happens to you without you realizing it. That salesperson who said, "I bet you're the kind of person who values quality over price." That coworker who mentioned, "So, you're probably not looking to stay in this role long term?" That person at the party who said, "I heard your company's about to go through some major changes." All of those were elicitation attempts, and chances are you responded to them. You corrected the record. You elaborated. You defended your position. You volunteered information you might not have shared if someone had just asked you directly. The technique is everywhere once you know what to look for. In sales conversations, job interviews, first dates, negotiations, even casual interactions with strangers. And now that you know about it, you have a choice. You can use it ethically to have better conversations, to help people open up, to build genuine connections. Or you can recognize when it's being used on you and decide what information you actually want to share. Because at the end of the day, elicitation works because of something fundamental about human psychology. We want to be understood. We want to correct misinformation. We want to prove ourselves when someone expresses doubt. Those impulses aren't bad. They're part of what makes us human. But they're also vulnerabilities that can be exploited if we're not aware of them. So the next time someone makes a statement that seems designed to get you talking, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this person genuinely curious, or are they eliciting information from me? And if you find yourself wanting to correct the record, to prove someone wrong, to elaborate on a statement they've made, remember that Soviet spy in an aloha shirt, sitting at a bar, talking to a 19-year-old sailor. Remember that sometimes the most dangerous questions are the ones that aren't questions at all.